Hi all, today we will learn about testing GET request, and the way that we will do it on Python, of course, is using the request library. Also, we will use, of course, inheritance, and we'll use the error messages to clarify the error of the assert in the GET request when it occurs. Okay, so let's go to the code and see the example which I made in advance. Okay, so how do we call a GET request? We have to call it using the URL of the resource we want to test. Okay, so we first need to build the URL. How is the URL built? The URL is built out of a base URL. Yes, we'll see it here on the example testing the Zipopotam service, which I introduced here. So let's see. We used here, the way we get here, the base URL is using inheritance from the father class which we built in order to reuse in all our test classes, so not to duplicate the code. And let's see the value of it. Let's see the code. We can see that on the base class, which is quite simple, we use two data members, base URL JSON placeholder, base URL Zipopotam, and now we of course we use the base URL Zipopotam, and later we'll use here the get response dictionary to get the dictionary of the content. But now we use the base URL. So in order to build all of the URL, we use the base, we concatenate with the suffix, which is here US/90 2010. Yes, we want to get the info out of them and test that it gets in the correct way, the expected way. So how do we do the request? We simply, from the request module, call the get method and pass it the URL, and we get a response. And the first thing to check, of course, that it was a success, and the server, which its endpoint we call to get the response of the get request, returns us 200 if the call was in general a success. So we test that by getting the status code after the response, we get 200, and of course we use a meaningful error message. We expected 200, but actually got response.status code if we fail, of course. And at the end, very similarly, we want to check that from the headers, we want to check it. We want to check that the type of the data is JSON. So we go to the content type property of the headers and check and validate that the application/JSON is correct. And also here we give a meaningful error message in the almost the same as before. And we go to other, and now we want to get to test the content of the response. And we'll do that getting the dictionary of the content. And we don't want to use a complex syntax to do that. So we use a function which is on the father of this class, which is inherited from the base class. And here I just return from the response the JSON and do it on a much meaningful self-describing method. Yes, and its name is get response dictionary, so it's much clearer. And we get it from here. Then we use it. Here we test the postcode, the country code, the abbreviation and we get it in a very simple way using the property, and we test the value, etc., etc. What's more interesting here is one of the properties, which is a dictionary itself, which is a list of dictionary to be more precise. And also here, we don't want to use complicated syntax. So we go to the dictionary, which is on the one and only list item. Let's see how it looks like. So it would be much more clearer on the debug. So we'll go step after step. And here we can see, first we look at the response dictionary. We can see here that places is a list with only one element. And on it, we have a dictionary, which is like, you know, property value, property value, property value, a set of property value elements. And now it's much more easier, it's easier to test the various properties and to assert them. And we do that also by adding a meaningful message like that. We expected to get this value of latitude, but actually got what the actual value, which is places list element of latitude. The latitude property of places list element. And on the end, after we tested all the properties, one of the other, we will announce, we will report that we finished successfully testing the get on this URL. And that is for now. Bye-bye.